Watch the counter. We'll give it 10 seconds. Because
You have a
if I
counter?
start talking to you as a counter on my screen, if we go too soon, we cut off the intro, and then people didn't see what I'm about to say, which is good morning, Toronto, and to everybody else. It is Friday, thankfully, and it is the 14th. It is still the 14th of May, 2021. I'm joined by my partner, Brandon, and PC George Eisenstein, and he is joining us. He's a PRU. He's a traffic officer from our primary response unit downstairs. He's one of the guys or one of the people who goes to collisions all over the city and does enforcement as well. So we wanted to get a chance to talk to George about his experiences. And it's police week. We get to talk to police
That's
officers. Wait, we are police officers. Yes, we're in the right place. I showed up in the right building.
right.
So a couple of things to start. It's Motorcycle Awareness Month, and we'll be discussing motorcycle awareness today. It's really an important topic, not just because in general motorcycles are smaller and more vulnerable, but because we've had two collisions this week involving motorcycles, and it's important to really discuss what's going on. Why are we seeing these collisions? Brandon, we have, if we're looking at last year, how many motorcycle related deaths did we have in Toronto?
Oh, actually, so I was looking at those the stats for that. Last year we had 9 motorcycle-related deaths, and unfortunately, one of those deaths was actually just the passenger on the motorcycle. So potentially of no fault of their own, they were involved in a fatal collision. Unfortunately, didn't get to go home to their family.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, anytime we see serious injury or death, it's a tragedy. And whether you're looking at Vision Zero, which in our own policies or theories is that collisions are avoidable. The vast majority, we understand that there's minor collisions, those fender benders, and that happens. But collisions that lead to serious injury or death are preventable because they're collisions. They're not accidents. There's somebody responsible. There's an action that took place that led to that event taking place. And if we can change some driving behavior, some bad habits, we might be able to reduce those serious injury or death collisions, and that's what our goals are. That's one of the reasons we're here online talking to you. It's why we're so active on TikTok, talking to everyone there. It's why we exist as a unit. Really, is to help people and to reduce death. So I'm going to stop talking for a second. George, good morning. Sorry, we didn't
Good
even
morning.
give
Good
you
morning to all of you.
a nice little hello.
Hello.
Glad that you were able to get to spend some time with us, and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I've heard lots of great things, and we've had chats before. But what is the are you the impaired whisperer? Like you have had a tremendous number of impaired arrests, and I know that you're passionate about it. What do you see when you're out there?
So, like one of those things that I notice nowadays, people are very distracted while like they're driving, right? Meaning they just listen to music, they're setting up their iPods in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Cell phone, it's the biggest distraction I ever seen, and this impaired thing is it's a myth. So people think the impaired drivers they only gonna be on the road if it's overnight or if it's a night after night club or if they party out hard. But that's not the case. I had impaireds 8 o'clock in the morning, nine
Mm-hmm.
o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning by alcohol, drugs, or a combination both. Sometimes it was during vehicle stops, sometimes we're after collision. So we have to understand that we share the same road. We have responsibilities as human beings as the drivers. And when you drive impaired, you not only jeopardize your safety, but somebody else's safety that has nothing to do with your drug or drinking habits. So that's a big, huge concern for me. And
Mm.
that's what I'm trying to be specialized in, right?
And you're doing a great job because
Thank
I
you
hear
so much.
nothing about good things. So
Awesome.
you've got me thinking here. I've got a video I want to play for you.
Sure.
It's a
Oh,
very short video, and it was
Bears? You doing Bears?
what's that? No, I no, it wasn't.
No.
That's a good one too. We could maybe we'll go into the Bears. Cue it up. Cue it
Just
up on your machine. No, what
cue
I
it.
want to play for you is a video that came in, and we're having some slow moving video here. Hang on one second.
You know
Here we
what,
go.
though? On the vein of distracted driving, 'cause George has a great point. It's very, very common. Even just last night, our VZET team, which if you follow us on Twitter, you probably see us posting about VZET all the time. Yesterday, they actually issued 16 distracted driving tickets,
Wow.
and that was just over 2 different divisions. So I mean, think about the citywide numbers in terms of distracted driving, quite a bit higher.
It is. It is impressive, and we have to start like this awareness with the drivers because distracted driving kill people,
Mm,
right? And the end of the day, they don't want to be held accountable for that mistake.
yeah.
So let's prevent this from happening. If you only use your cell phone, use it prior. You go to from point A, I'm sorry, to point B. Worst comes to worst, use like use like the speaker on your
Hmm.
car, like Bluetooth connected, right? That
Yeah.
can avoid so many issues down the road.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? You might have not seen yesterday, George, but we had a good friend Scott Marshall on, and he was talking a little bit about distracted driving, and some people mistake what they think it is, so they'll hold the phone in their hand, and well, it's hands free because they're not holding it up to their head. And I know that you're currently on the road. Like, what have you heard some weird excuses, or what do people say when you're like,
Well,
here it
yeah,
is, it's a cell phone.
the common excuse like the red light, and sometimes it depends on where you at. The cycle takes 30 seconds, 35 seconds, so there's a lot of time for you to wonder. Someone text me, someone sent something funny to me. Let me grab my cell phone and check. And quite often when you knock like in the driver's window because I'm on the foot or I'm in a car, so well, but I'm not even driving. I'm just waiting for the red light to get green. So no, you're driving and you're not allowed. But
Mm-hmm.
You're in
officer,
control of that
You're
motor
in control.
vehicle, and you're not paying
exactly.
attention to your responsibilities.
I
Yeah.
said, did you
Y-
see me coming? No, I did not. Exactly, because you're distracted on your cell phone. Now the light's green. Why you didn't proceed it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I was distracted.
I've got that video. I couldn't find it on YouTube. I thought we had posted it there. I've got it on uh, Instagram. So this is on our Instagram page, which is where's my graphic for Instagram? It's at Toronto. Sorry, it's at Traffic Services Toronto. That's the uh, if you want to go check out our Instagram page. But here's the video. It's going to play for me. I pressed play. There we go. What do you think? Impaired or distracted?
Impaired.
Okay, wait, keep it going.
Impaired, like shifting lanes. That's a
Right.
common mistake. Like you're unable to maintain the lanes, just
Mm-hmm.
drifting away, unable to control speed.
Mm-hmm. At what? Maybe like 3 in the afternoon too, right?
Oh my, that's just bad. Oh my gosh, it's gonna, just
So
teenagers
so
there. Oh,
just to give you some backstory, or at least the rest of the story, this person was reported to OPP because they were going on from the DVP to the 404, and the caller followed up behind them until they got off in York Region. York Region followed up; it was passed over. York Region stopped them and performed a roadside, and they were not impaired by alcohol. They were tired and using their cell phone very actively.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was left for a lot of discussion. It's been very interesting watching people vote for it. Oddly enough, the majority of people on our TikTok account voted and said distracted over, and they had theories as to why, based on the jerkiness of the motion. They had all sorts of theories, but in the end, they were actually right. I looking at myself looking at it would have said impaired by alcohol, absolutely. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but it's amazing to see how they look so similar. And,
they do.
and what people don't realize is they look like this very often when they're using their phone. They
They
may
do.
not be quite as exaggerated as that, but that's distracted driving, and it leads to as much, or in fact more, collision and injury than impaired driving does. This is far more prevalent than impaired driving. They're both problems. One is currently criminal, the other one is not. But the stakes are going up every day. I mean, we're talking about increased fines, penalties, and suspensions for distracted driving that are coming. So it's a serious problem. And we talk about motorcycle safety, and we have discussions and questions constantly from riders who are like, "What about lane splitting? Why don't we have lane splitting here?" It's lane splitting is available in other countries, and that lane splitting, for those who don't know, is where a motorcycle would be permitted to ride down the center line between lanes to get through traffic that's moving slower. What if that person's on the road beside you? You know, this unpredictable move, and you're lane splitting, and you meet that vehicle in the middle. these are reasons it's not safe. These are reasons why we don't have it as permitted behavior. So, thank you for indulging me with that video. I can't stop watching it. So, George, we talked about a little bit about the impaired stuff. On the theme of Motorcycle Awareness Month. Have you had cause to investigate motorcycle collisions? Have you had a lot of that on your radar?
I did actually. Even last year, unfortunately, I had to investigate a fatal involved a motorcyclist. It's not pleasant, right? That's something that everyone should be aware of. Zero fatalities, that's my goal, right? No fatalities, that's our dream here.
It's our vision zero. That's the whole thing.
It is. It's a vision zero. And what I do find is most of the times speeding is a factor, right? You have to take in accountability your speed, road conditions, and other driver's behavior,
Mm.
right? If you don't put it this in this equation, the worst can happen, right? And people says but I'm wearing the helmet. It's not enough. It's not enough because if you get involved in a collision, yes, the helmet is going to protect your head, but there's other factors, right? So just be safe, like respect the road conditions, respect other drivers, obey the signs and regulations, and you should be okay. It's going to be a good summer to all of us.
You bring up something very interesting. Speed is obviously an issue, but it's riding beyond your ability.
You
and
got it.
and and riding cooperatively with other people on the road. You can be, let's take everybody off the road. You're on a racetrack at that point, and suddenly your actions are the only ones that are being measured, your abilities, and that's it. But then you have to mix in everyone else's skills, abilities, and focus. And like you saw in that video we played, not everybody's paying
Distracted
attention.
driving.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
now you're just one cog in a machine, and if it doesn't go right,
Hmm.
you're gonna have problems. So, you know, there's a part of education, like as a rider myself, keeping my skills up, which I haven't been riding in the last few years because of an
Hmm.
injury. But when I was riding actively, I was constantly practicing, whether it be cone work on our practice pad and training, or just going to a parking lot and spending a half an hour every few days working inside and doing maneuvers, figure eights, these things to make sure that my slow speed skills are up to par, because I'm responsible for me, and I can only ride as well as I can ride. Uh, and and then that's not even taking into consideration everybody else on the road that you're sharing with. So, for anyone who's riding out there, it's the overconfidence that
You
tends
got
to get people in trouble. And driving in a straight line quickly doesn't take skill. It's the slow speed stuff that where you really need to work on your skills. But it's that everybody else around you, that uncontrollable thing that we just hope we get through this next intersection. Okay, you can't operate on hope. You have to be tuned in, dialed in, head on a swivel, aware of your surroundings, and we want you to get to where you're going safely. I've lost friends on motorcycles, and I don't mean by they needed a GPS to get home. I mean they never came home from the ride,
Mm.
and it's horrible. It affects communities. It's tragic, because those happy-go-lucky people that are wonderful, additions to your life, because of no sometimes fault of their own, sometimes not, they don't come home, and we don't want that. So, uh, so the number one tip from me is don't ride beyond your abilities, and speed limits are there for a reason. We have a lot of arguments. We get into, not arguments, but discussions. Very very vocal people on our TikTok that talk about the fact that they think speed limits are not necessary, that they're not reasonable, and that they think because in the autobahn people can go faster, then that is the model for everywhere.
That's not Germany.
Well, it was not only that, I didn't even know this. I had to do some research. When I went when I was driving in the Autobahn many, many years ago, I was being stopped, passed like I was stopped, like I was not even moving. It was in a little Renault hatchback, and it was scary, because even if you wanted to, I think that three-cylinder would have exploded if I was going faster. But there are speed limits in the majority of the Autobahn that are in the range of 80 to 130 kilometers an hour. So it's not this wild and reckless area. There are areas in Germany that are unregulated, but they're also designed to accommodate that speed. Our roads aren't
Mhm.
aren't designed for those speeds, and then when everyone's on the same page, it's different. We have people of various skill levels, various mechanical ability. I mean, their cars aren't capable of doing these. It's not a good scene. Our speed limits are set for a reason, and additionally, the trend on city roads is to reduce speed. And you give yourself more time. Time is the one thing you can never get back. Once you're traveling at a certain speed, you've given up a certain amount of
Yeah.
control, because you have reactionary gap. You have that
Yeah.
time that takes your brain to tell your foot and your body and so on to react. And at speed, that distance is smaller.
Yeah,
So
that is actually something that we've talked about a few times on this channel before, and even just having, even just a regular amount of speed, even if you were looking at just going 60 kilometers an hour or 50 kilometers an hour,
yeah,
a very short lapse in concentration, not looking at the road, you're traveling 30 to 35 meters in that second, or in that 2 seconds, and then you've got reaction time, et cetera, et cetera. But what makes me kind of curious about this conversation of speed, and this will go over to George, is your experience back home, back in Brazil. What was speed? What was it like? Was it when you were there? Were there set speeds? Was speeding a major issue like it seems to be here? I mean, I'm looking at the VSET stats, and we've got 174 speeding tickets just yesterday in two divisions. So what was it like back home, and how does that compare to here?
So the speed there is a factor as well, and it's quite concerning. The highway speeds are limited to 100 kilometers per hour, and citywide is 50 kilometers per hour. So very similar to Canada, I would say,
Mm,
especially within GTA. I would say that there is a little bit worse just because of the mass population, right? And that said, it's very well regulated, but
mm,
still, people decide to speed. And the common excuse that I do have, well, but I purchased a car like this. I'm sorry, my car can go to 160 kilometers per hour, 180. Why they would sell a car like this if I'm not able to drive at that speed? I say, okay, like we're not gonna go to that road, right? They want to sell the car regardless of the law or not, right? You buy it just because you want to drive a nice, comfortable, secure, safety car, but doesn't mean you can go at that speed, right? Or they should stop the manufacturer of producing those vehicles at a higher speed. I said, listen, that's
it's
not gonna go well, right?
it's
But
not my fault is very common as an excuse. It wasn't my
it,
fault. It's somebody else's fault. They
yeah,
gave me
I
this
cannot
car.
control my car. My car is V8. I didn't switch the engine. Like the engine came like that. It's a V.3, a V8 5.3. I say, okay, but you have control on the gear. You have a control on the gas.
hmm
So you should know better, right?
We had this video on addressing exactly this, because it was a question that came up. Why would they make cars that go 200? Never mind 100, over the speed limit, but beyond the speed limits anywhere. Well, the cars are performance. They're alluring when they are capable and powerful. But it's that control. You have to be more responsible for. You have to be responsible for what you do.
Hmm.
The car is an inanimate object.
Exactly.
It doesn't do anything for you. So responsibility and driving is a privilege, which people don't generally want to acknowledge. That here, there's no guarantee of maintaining that privilege,
hmm
and behavior is ultimately going to do it. So we have a lot of conversations about points, demerit point system. How does it work? And how many do I start with? How many till I lose them all? And there's a lot of confusion. So everyone starts with zero. For anyone who doesn't know this, it starts with zero, and as you go up, you trigger different notifications. So there's a warning letter that gets issued, and another warning issue, and then eventually you will have a suspension. And I don't know many people who have gotten to the point of suspension, because I think at that point the insurance kicks in, and everyone's really concerned about points. But something else that many people don't realize is any tickets, any infractions are bad. Insurance companies are measuring your risk, and it doesn't matter if there's points or not. Risk is what they're evaluating. So, anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. A rabbit hole appeared
As
out
he
of nowhere.
does.
Yes.
I had another question in the vein of Police Week, George. I was wondering if you could talk about your experience coming from another country, and then applying to be a part of the Toronto Police Service, the best service around. Um, because we get those questions questions a lot. So for the folks who don't know, we do go on to TikTok Live after we go live here. We spend about an hour answering questions. A lot of those questions end up being, and I field a lot of those ones, is about what the hiring process is like, what skills the Toronto Police wants to see coming to the table. And George, you just went through it, and you have a very particular experience as you came from another country. So I'd be interested to hear it, and I think other folks would be too.
Okay, I think the first challenge for me was the language. When I moved to Canada, I went to Quebec, and I was in Montreal for a while. Then when I decided to come back to Toronto, I said, okay, so language was definitely a challenge for me. But again, I put the effort in it. I went to school, I went to university, so I was learning. And here and there, I have some hiccups, but nothing that's going to prevent me from performing my work. Putting that aside, so I was trying to do my very best every single day. And I always wonder, how can I perform well? How can I do well in an interview? So I was doing online research. I was attending information sections, and
Hmm.
then I knew what actually the service needs from the candidates. I said, what do we need? So you need to show your volunteer work, like work-related experience, life experience. And when finally I said, you know what, I think I'm ready. Now I'm at competitive at my very best. Now I submit my application. That's what I always should aim to be at your very best. It's very competitive. You're talking about the greatest service like in Canada. So be the best.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Constantly improving yourself, continual commitment to education and development, showing that you're a candidate who is engaged and committed to serving the public. That's what we do. We're here to keep people safe, to help people. Volunteerism is a huge thing for police services everywhere. They
Huge.
want to show that you're committed to making your community a better place, um, and that. One thing that I think is a misnomer, or that people are focused on trying to become police officers and getting education specific to policing. My feeling is becoming educated in anything that could benefit a police service, even though it's not specific to policing, is good. I don't know if you had a background in policing. Actually, I do know you had a background in policing before when you were back home. But if you got an accounting degree, well, there's crime in that area, forensics and not forensics, financial crimes. Having accounting experience would be a phenomenal thing and probably
Oh,
end you up in that specialty at some point in your career. But you bring something, you make our service better by bringing your unique talents here. So don't be stuck on developing yourself to be a police officer and learning about guns and driving
oh.
and laws. You don't have to be a lawyer to be a police officer, but everything you do to make yourself a better candidate
Yeah.
and stand out from the crowd is really what's
If
going
you're
to
a good
help.
diver, you could be like in Marine unit. If you're okay with dogs, you can be the K9 unit. You love you like you're good horse rider. Guess what? We have mounted a unit for you. We
Yeah,
can accommodate everyone as long as you
Yeah.
bring like a different skills, new skills to the service. Guess what? There is a place here for you.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's true. And what Sean was saying about like learning about, guns and vehicles and laws, that's our bread and butter. Those are the things that we can teach you that. We can
that's
give you
right.
those skills. We want the special whatever what we want the George Eisenstein. What does he have to bring to the table? And that's what's going to bring value to our service and to our community. And that's where the service seems to be minded these days. So when it comes to volunteering, I mean, personally, I volunteered coaching kids how to work out, and I'm sure that was one of many different experiences that people had in terms
I don't know
of
why. It's like you're interested in fitness or something.
just a tad.
He might be the most physically fit person I've ever met. It's scary. We won't get into that. He has a gym in his car, a portable gym in his car. It's very scary. Now, on the screen, I have the domain name for or the address for our recruiting, our careers page for the Toronto Police Service. And if you're interested in joining the Toronto Police, check out that webpage. There's constantly either uniform, auxiliary, or civilian positions that are posted. The requirements of all those positions are there. Everything you need to know about what we are looking for as a service are right there. Contact information, so you can speak to our talent acquisition department. It's all there. You can speak and get lots of information. They're the pros, but we always like to talk about experiences of our officers, our colleagues, because everyone's got such a unique story. Many years ago, I was an auxiliary officer here. I started as a volunteer and became a member later as a paid member. But I remember listening to the story of an officer. I don't know if he's still on the job. He may have retired. He was dry. He was going to be an art student. he was driving in, and it was in a farm. I think he described it as like he was driving past a farm, and his car broke down. So he walked into the farmhouse to call and get help. And while he was on the phone with police or a tow, his car got rear-ended by an impaired driver. And he had to run out and grab and try and save whatever he could save from inside of his car, because he needed it for art school. And when the investigating officer arrived for his collision, it suggested he's a big strapping lad. Why don't you come join the police? And he became a police officer. Like it was such unique stories. Yeah, and that's an oldie. I'm sure somebody watching will know who I'm talking about. But it's amazing. So thank you so much. What else can we talk about today?
Let's see.
Let's talk about my favorite topic. Because we're gonna wrap up soon, but we do continue. And you mentioned it. Every day we go live on TikTok. And George, are you on TikTok?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there we go. We're starting a thing. So if you'd like to continue this, and now we did have the ability to answer Q&As in this session, but where the action really happens is on TikTok. So if you are on the app, join us at Traffic Services. If you're not on the app, go get the app, because you can interact in a very casual way, asking your questions, and you'll be answered by Brandon and myself. Brandon generally handles all the what's it called, the chat room, and I'm answering the Q&A section. But we tag team and make it happen. So if you're interested in joining us, we will be there at 8:00. George, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We'll have you back again, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice morning to all of you.
Yes, to you too. All the best.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.